Well, Alon, what's worse? The Raiders' pitiful performance or us acknowledging that this may happen and us still picking the Raiders to win?
Us for saying that this could happen. No, actually, no, it's not because we don't play the game, Derek. They play the game.
That's
And
true.
they completely crap the bed. And I came to a realization about this a long time ago regarding fandom or going to events or whatever. Like, I can do my part. I can cheer a team on. I can have a vested interest in them. But at the end of the day, if they lose, that's on them. That's not my fault. I mean, they fucked up.
No, I know. The Raiders totally did, and we'll get to it all. I just feel really stupid that I picked them in
I do
two
too.
survivor pools.
Oh
Yeah.
God. So
I acknowledged that this may happen. I didn't think it'd be as thorough of an ass kicking as it was. It was God. But Jesus.
survivor pools have
And you
gone
know what?
wrecked.
I mean, yeah, they totally did. I was kind of shorting the Panthers. I picked the 3 weeks that I was in both survivor pools, I picked the team that was playing the Panthers. And I thought that the Raiders would come through, and I should not have got my hopes up. What's going on, everybody? Just your opinion, man. Stephen Langford is still out. He's enjoying his days as a married man, and we'll get him back on Saturday. But I got Alon to say filling in with me again, and we'll go all through week 3. And also, you can see if you're on the live show. I got my A's hat on and my Ricky Henderson shirt on, and we'll get to it at the end of the show. But I am really, it hasn't hit me yet, but it's getting there. That these are the remaining games in Oakland, and I can't go to Thursday's game, but man, I'm dreading the next couple days here because I have not really thought about life. I mean, I have thought about life after sports leaves Oakland, but I just haven't really thought about the Coliseum being completely empty. And I'm hoping to go tomorrow night. Still got to see if I can get a ticket. But yeah, no, it's getting really sad to be completely honest. But we will definitely get to it all later. But Alon is kind of feeling a little under the weather tonight. A
Little
little
bit.
under the weather. He texted me earlier today saying like, any way we could postpone this thing, and I said no. The people need a salon. So he gutted it out. His mom made him some spicy ramen. He did lose in picks though.
Special
He did.
delivery, and I lost a lot of picks.
Not a lot. It was close, but I beat him. And the good thing is, Alon's going to come back. Steven will go on his official honeymoon in a couple weeks, and Alon will come back on the show. So we'll make him own up the bet then. Tonight we're going to take it easy on him because he's sick, but eventually he'll have to eat that hot sauce.
Yeah. And I got quite the selection too. I have some Reaper hot sauce. I have some habanero at my
Ooh.
place. Like, I'm pretty sure my parents at their place, they got some different hot sauce too that I could go over and go get. Like, there's some good stuff.
You got some Carolina Reaper? How are you? How are you with hot sauce, Alon?
I'm pretty good like through habanero. Like, I like that. And then anything kind of above that, I hate. So I will like ghost pepper, awful. Like anything above that, spicy Mexican line, it's terrible.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll definitely put you through hell when you're able to own up to this bet.
I'll probably do ghost pepper because that's awful enough, and I don't want to do Reaper's terrible. I don't want to do Reaper. That's
so
that's
you would rather do ghost pepper than Carolina Reaper.
I think ghost pepper is not as bad as Reaper because I've done ghost pepper before over. Obviously Bay Area audience. There's that store up there in Lake Tahoe where they will give you free ghost pepper like shots of hot sauce.
Oh, really?
It'll ruin your day. You'll be walking around for like an hour after that, just trying to get it out of your system. But yeah, I'll do one of the really hot ones. I'll figure out which one's hottest.
Have you heard of Pepper X, which is now the world's hottest pepper?
What the hell is that? No, I haven't.
It's a new, I guess, crossbreed that the guy that came up with the Carolina Reaper, I guess it's like smoking Ed Curry. He has like I know all this shit from watching way too much Hot Ones, but his company Pucker Butts came up with a new hot pepper called Pepper X, and it's in the new Hot Ones hottest sauce, the Last Dab experienced. I've had it a few
Oh.
times. Not that bad, but it's hot. It's definitely hot.
It's hot. Okay. Like, is it the kind of hot where if you get it on your hands and then you go take a wee, like you're not gonna have a fun time in the bathroom?
I think anytime you get a little hot sauce on your pee-pee, it's gonna hurt.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Let's talk about another painful experience. God. The Las Vegas Raiders.
Oof.
You and I and Steven, we all acknowledged that this could be a trap scenario for the Raiders. And then I don't really like saying like trap game because the Raiders aren't really in a good position to be looking over opponents ever. They haven't really been established yet. And this was just kind of a scary game because we acknowledge the history, the recent history, actually. There's been many times where the Raiders have faced a backup QB and were not prepared. I brought up Baker Mayfield a couple years ago against the Rams on a Thursday night. The Raiders were dominating most of that game. Baker Mayfield was signed off waivers, I think, on a Wednesday. And that game was on a Thursday. Baker Mayfield came into that game, scored 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, including a 99-yard drive, and won the game. Same year, Colts fire their head coach. Bring in Jeff Saturday. And everybody mocks and laughs at him. Like, this guy's no experience. The whole week he says Sam Ehlinger is going to be our quarterback. Then, surprise, it's not Sam Ehlinger. It's Matt Ryan. I love the move. Matt Ryan comes out, shreds the Raiders defense. We brought up Nick Foles, 2013. They bench Michael Vick. Nick Foles comes in for a career day, Hall of Fame day, honestly. 7 touchdown passes. Raiders were not prepared for him whatsoever. Same thing happened on Sunday. The Panthers bench, Bryce Young, opening drive. Andy Dalton goes down the field, scores a touchdown. And I was at the athletic club, did not see the opening drive, and I was like, shit, we're already off to a bad start. And yes, I'm going to say we. It's hard for me to drop this team sometimes, ladies and gentlemen, especially when I'm angry over shit like this. So for tonight, I am a Raiders fan. And I was disgusted by this performance, seeing that it went from 7-0 to then 24-7 at halftime. I think it was 24-7. 21-7. Whatever it was too much. The Raiders had a pitiful performance on offense and defense. It was really the quick game of Andy Dalton. And the Raiders were just not prepared for him. Like, they knew come whenever it was announced, either that Monday or Tuesday, they were going to play Andy Dalton. And there's enough tape on Andy Dalton out there. The guy's been around for years.
Well, Marvin Lewis, the associate head coach, drafted him.
Exactly. Anybody knows him, it's Marvin Lewis. However, it's a brand new offensive scheme. And Dave Canales really just ran circles around Antonio Pierce and Patrick Graham. But this is the problem you get into with a CEO coach, a rah-rah coach. Antonio Pierce is a great motivator of men, a great leader of men. But when it comes to X's and O's, I do wonder if he will be out-schemed and out-coached by the best play callers in football. And for that one game, Dave Canales looked like he knew how to draw up a good offense. And he did it many years in Tampa Bay as well. So, I mean, I don't even know where to, like, it was a pitiful performance. The Raiders got a few sacks here or there, but the defense was torched. They didn't make any good adjustments, and the offense looked terrible. The truth is, the Raiders have not put together a good enough offensive rhythm for a full 60-minute ball game. It hasn't happened since Luke Getsy has been offensive coordinator of this team. The only time they've looked good is the second half of the Raven game. And that's when the Ravens kind of fell apart. So I don't know how this offense is going to proceed forward with Gardner Minshew. He looked lost. I'm kind of tired of the camera shots of Davante Adams on the sideline and then the Twitter posts of, oh, Davante's pissed. The whole team needs to be fucking pissed.
Yeah.
This was an awful performance. For the home opener, and things have changed with Antonio Pierce. It was the same old Raiders, to be completely honest. So whatever you thought about this team a week ago goes out the window. I I thought it was absolutely awful the way they played against the Carolina Panthers, to put it short.
No, it was terrible. Being at the game, I think I left right around towards the end of the third quarter. And then caught the rest of it on the radio driving home. But yeah, it was bad. And so I went with my dad and my mom, my sister as well. They went, and me and my dad, like, we never leave. We never leave games. We've been to some stinkers too.
Yeah.
And I just looked at him. I'm like, you want to get out of here? He goes, still another quarter and a half football to play. About 3 minutes towards the end of the third, he goes, let's get out of here. And I was like, damn, he's tapping out. And I was ready too. And I was surprised at myself as well. But I had told him and some other folks, I said, that's probably the worst Raider game that I had been to, like, in person since performance-wise. Nick Foles was bad. That was a really bad game. But
Damn,
he had a career day. But that team was god awful at, like, you can't point to any stars at any level of that defense, for instance. I mean, I can't, it's hard to think of any, like, potential, there's a guy who's a lock, there's a defensive player of the year type caliber guy on that defense. There wasn't.
Yeah, not back then, no.
No. The last time I went to a game that was that bad, probably in person, was at the Oakland Coliseum when Jamarcus Russell started in the season opener against the Denver Broncos. And it was like 42-13.
Yeah. Eddie Royal going off.
Yes. It was one of those games where there were just no answers at all, and the effort looked non-existent. I mean, in 2018, when Gruden came back in Oakland and they were not a good team, they at least tried to fight. They just had no players. They were force-feeding Marshawn Lynch, who couldn't do anything at that point in his career. And, Jordy Nelson was one of their big receivers. It wasn't good. Say what you will about Minshew, but, like, come on, he's got weapons at his disposal. No one's arguing against that. He looked horrible. He, in person, I'm sure you could see it on TV too. I didn't watch the game back. I didn't watch any of the film, but he looks like he cannot see the middle of the field. And I wonder if it's because when he's dancing back there, he's obviously squatting down a little bit when he has to start moving, and he can't see over the line. I mean, it's a major issue. He does not look comfortable. I'm not saying his protection has been great, but it wasn't all that bad on Sunday. So that was horrendous. They're still not able to get any kind of running game going. Zamir White's vision, it doesn't look good. And I don't know whether that's a scheme thing or whether, he just needs more time. But I can't question the fact that his vision looked pretty damn good last year with an interim offensive coordinator towards the end of the season. And the players on the offensive line are pretty much the same. So they'll need to figure that out. But it was one of the worst effort performances that I've ever seen. It looked like, and I said this in the stands to some of the other fans there, I said, what did they do all week? Yeah. They just thought this was going to be a cupcake game, like it's college. Like, we're going against a non-power 4 conference team or even a lower division team, and we're going to beat the crap out of them. It didn't happen. They got the shit kicked out of them. I mean, there's no other way of saying it. And usually I don't use harsh language like this, but you can't sugarcoat it. Max Crosby. Now, I'm not going to bag on him too much. He was injured. I'm surprised he even played. I mean, he looked pretty immobile out there, at least being there in person. But someone else has to pick him up. I thought Spillane tried. I thought Christian Wilkins tried. But it's evident without Malcolm Kuntz that Tyree Wilson can't get the job done. And he's a long-term project and not at defensive end. If anything, his success in his career is probably going to come on the inside. But if he has any. But yeah, it didn't look good. I will say this about Patrick Graham's defense. They got torched over the middle over and over and over again. They tried switching it up. They tried playing man coverage. They got obliterated there. Their zones, I don't think they played enough zone coverage. That's just me from what I saw in the stands. Obviously, you're looking at the ball a lot, but it looked like the linebackers, Spillane had no help out there, whether it was Masterson or Diablo didn't play, I don't believe, and or hardly at all. And Tommy Eichenberg maybe got a few snaps, but that didn't look good. So I think defensively they'll be fine going forward. Like, a defense is always going to have a bad game, right? But I think this is so self-inflicted that Antonio Pierce was right in a way before the game happened this past week. He said, look, we're not worried about the Panthers. We have to fix the Raiders. And maybe this is what he was talking about. Maybe he's talking about the fact that this team isn't consistent. But the problem is he's the one in charge of that.
Yeah.
So I was expecting a much harsher media. I thought they were pretty nice to him after the game. But, apparently over at their facility, he's been having meetings left and right trying to figure this thing out. The news came out today. They're going to go with Minshew again, if sources are to be believed. So I would say this is probably Minshew's last chance at retaining the starting job. He'll have to beat Cleveland. But yeah, it's almost one of those games where it's not even worth looking at the film because it's like you were just so bad. And it was because of effort. Davante Adams even had a bad game. He dropped multiple balls that he should have caught. The Raiders' one explosive was a deep over-the-top shot to Trey Tucker, and they didn't do anything else after that. They don't consistently stretch the field. Teams can squat in the box, crap all over Zamir White, and just have their way with the offensive line. So until something like that changes, and that's on Luke Getsy, and ultimately that's on Antonio Pierce, you can expect the same type of offensive performances. And the only way the offense is going to get better is when you do get guys, if they keep playing this way, is when you do get guys like Brock Bowers and Davante Adams to make plays once they have the ball in their hands. But otherwise, I'm not seeing it. I will say this last thing about the offense.
Mm-hmm.
There are players open. That is not a question of players not being open. Minshew needs to throw the damn ball. And if he doesn't throw the ball and he keeps running around back there for his life, they're going to keep having bad results.
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it on everything you just said. Minshew does not look comfortable. Max Crosby looked a shell of himself. The defense just did not look prepared whatsoever.
No.
And yeah, it was a lot of quick game, and it was a lot of, spectacular catches too, like the Deontay Johnson touchdown, the Adam Thielen touchdown. Damn, these guys were waiting for some competent quarterback play. And Andy Dalton got sacked here or there, but his numbers were incredible. He was 26 of 37 for 319 yards and 3 touchdowns. Not bad for a guy who hasn't played in quite some time. And if it is just primarily effort, then who are the Raiders to feel that they can just treat the Panthers game like a cakewalk?
Yeah.
You barely won that game against the Ravens. It was a great win, don't get me wrong, but you could easily have lost that game. And you got shit stomped the week before against the Chargers. And I'll say this too. I am over the cigar celebrations right now.
That's gone.
It's over. No more. You got to start treating wins like business. Like there really is, and I see you drinking that Modelo right there. Modelo Chelada. Nice choice there, my man. No more cigar celebrations. It's over. I don't want to see that shit. If I see it again, I'll mock the hell out of it. The Raiders need to start treating these wins like it's common practice.
Yeah.
If you start, after that performance, that shows me that you haven't changed. So to act like, let's celebrate every win now, no, it should be a consistent thing. I remember John Gruden years ago in the Raiders locker room just hyping up the guys we need to start feeling this more, man. We need to start acting like this is routine. That's what needs to happen with this team. So I'm not shocked about what happened. It was just kind of here we go again. Why does this always happen to this team? They always not always, but they always follow up a great performance against a good team by a shitty performance to a team that you would expect to beat.
Yeah. They play to the level of their opponents.
Exactly.
It's simple as that.
It's unbelievable. So I don't know. I was hoping they would build off of that win last week and get the good vibes going. But yeah, Gardner Minshew, the reality is as you put Alon, Gardner Minshew maybe has one more start to prove that he should be the starting quarterback of this team, because it's that close to going back to Aiden O'Connell. Aiden O'Connell had a good touchdown drive to end the game, but that's a garbage time. And then this is what I'm not the least bit surprised that at certain points this season, it'll go from Minshew to AOC, maybe back to Minshew. But that's some 2006 bullshit, going from Aaron Brooks to
Andrew
Andrew
Walter.
Walter to back to Aaron Brooks to back to Andrew Walter. You don't need that. You need consistent quarterback play from one man. And I mean, when preseason ended, Antonio Pierce let everybody know that I wasn't happy with either quarterback basically this preseason, but by default, I'm going with Minshew. And it's not just the offense. The defense, both sides of the ball were terrible, absolutely terrible. But as far as Minshew, I think what a lot of people were expecting was the swashbuckling, gunslinging Gardner Minshew of Jacksonville, the guy that threw for a shit ton of yards and touchdowns, didn't win every game, but was going to keep you in football games. And he's got the hair, he's got the jorts, he gives you fun quotes. That's what Raider fans were expecting. When he was doing the goofy pictures, everybody was like, oh, we got the closest thing to Kenny Stabler at quarterback again. That is not this guy. Gardner Minshew's fun, but when he's playing like shit, it's not that fun. No. So, this is who they got a quarterback. And I know I've been a broken record on my displeasure with how they did not address the quarterback position, but that's neither here nor there right now. We're in the middle. We're not in the middle, but we're at the beginning of the season right now, and you already have questions about the quarterback position. The defense, I have better faith in. It was just a terrible performance, and Patrick Graham got taken to the woodshed by Dave Canales. That's 100% what happened.
They looked checked out after maybe the third or fourth possession where the Raiders punted.
Yeah.
And that's what it looked like to me. They were like, fuck. Okay, I mean, we can really put it all out here on the line, and maybe they should have, because that's what you would expect to do if you're a good team. But they just looked like, same old shit. Our offense isn't going to do anything today. I'm not saying they straight up packed it in, but they kind of did.
By the way, just real quick to take a tangent, Alon, you see there's a fake Derek Papa in the YouTube chat?
Oh, I wonder who it is.
Oh, I think I know who it is, because
is it Tacky?
Yep. I don't see Tacky in the chat right now, and he's doing a bunch of Eminem references. And when I saw Tacky the two times I've met him, he brought up kind of like mocking my Eminem love.
Ooh.
So Tacky, you played yourself, buddy. I think this fake Derek Papa is Tacky. And
World's greatest detective, Derek Papa.
Yep. And until I'm proven otherwise, I'm going with that. So eat shit, fake Derek Papa.
Okay. Keep going, Derek.
No. I was just gonna say, yeah, if they look checked out, then that's an indictment on Antonio Pierce, and he can say in the post game presser, there's a lot of guys out there who were acting like they were making some business decisions, and we got to make some business decisions ourselves, implying that maybe some of these guys will get benched or cut. And then when asked about it the next day, he was like, I don't mince words. So I appreciate that from Antonio Pierce to kind of be the hard ass. But also, this is the part that I have trouble with. And I thought Rick Tittle kind of put it great on a tweet. It's hard to be, change things when you are kind of a spectator during a game. And I know it's more than that. But I don't know what Antonio Pierce does. And I know that he is a leader of men, and some guys want that in their football coach. But and I'm not saying they needed to break the bank for another Gruden or Josh McDaniels, but there's a lot to be left desired for what this guy brings as a head coach. You have 3 big personalities in this division, and you need a guy that's going to have this team play up each week. It happened last year. But that also, this is what I worried about. It happened last year because they were so down about the way things were with Josh McDaniels that he built them up. Now there's expectations. Now you're playing Andy Reid twice a year. You're playing Jim Harbaugh twice a year. You're playing Sean Payton twice a year. Are you going to have a good enough scheme to beat these guys? And I'm not saying every team needs an offensive-minded coach, but I want guys that can bring the team together and say, this is what I want you to do. This is what I need you to do, instead of just saying quotes.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to minimize what Antonio Pierce does as a head coach, but the way they come out against Cleveland will be very telling to me. So either he lights into them at practice, and that's the old school mentality of, I'm going to motherfuck you guys until shit gets right, or he gets on, the dry erase board and dials some shit up. He was a defensive player. Maybe he knows some way to scheme it up, but he's never been a defensive coordinator. So
no, he was a DC in college.
okay, never mind then.
Yeah.
But that's right. He was a DC with Arizona State. Then maybe he needs to give with Patrick Graham a little bit more and say, this is what we need to do. I don't know. It just didn't look good. And It's the same old shit with the Raiders. I mean, we jokingly laugh at the notion of this, but it happened. It happened. And, it's any given Sunday in the NFL. You think you're a shitty. You think someone's a shitty team one week, they come back and kick your ass the next week. That's just what happens sometimes. But for the Raiders to not take advantage of this moment, it was just really, really disappointing.
Yeah, I agree, Derek. And there's always going to be games where your defense doesn't play well for whatever reason. I think in this case, they didn't prepare well and they didn't give it their maximum effort. But you need to score more than 14 points and a half to have a chance in any game, especially in today's NFL. That's where I think all the problems with this team are. It's on the offensive end. I think the defense had a horrible game as well. The entire team did, with the exception of some of the specialists. Although Carlson did miss a kick, it was a 57-yarder. But they didn't have the effort there. They didn't have any juice. I would expect Antonio Pierce to be a hard ass on them all week. I don't know if it's going to pay dividends. You mentioned, what does he do as a coach? Well, any coach, he's got to have something that he is able to maximize, something he can hang his hat on. If that is motivating players and making sure that the organization runs well, then he's got to do that better than everybody else in the division, or as well as someone else in the division, to make up for the fact that, say, he's not an offensive play caller or he's not a defensive play caller, right? So he's got to have something to maximize, and he's got to be that kind of guy that can put other coaches in a position to win. I'm not seeing that at all on the offensive end. We saw it for one half, and it was only for one half, because really a quarter and a half against the Ravens, because the Raiders had no other choice. They had to spread the ball out. I look at this roster sometimes, the offensive playmakers they have, and I'm like, I understand you can't run the air raid in the NFL. It's a little hard to do with the pass rushers that are on every single team. But give me a break. You can't keep loading up and playing against loaded boxes with, I don't mind playing with two tight ends, but put Minshew in the shotgun. Did anybody watch him in his college career at all, what he did with Mike Leach? And I'm not saying he can replicate that, but not letting him do those kinds of things is not putting him in a position to do well either. When he was in Jacksonville, he was out of the gun almost exclusively. So certain things I don't get, and I'm not paid to fix them. They got to figure it out themselves. But Antonio Pierce is going to have to figure out a way to light a fire into this team. I will say this. I felt very bad for Raider Nation. They packed that place out on Sunday. There were hardly, there's not a lot of Carolina Panthers fans to begin with, but what I'm saying is that crowd was there. They were full spirit, full voice. They wanted to have a good time, and the team just let them down completely. So I hope against Cleveland they see a similar crowd support and outing, but I hope they get a better result. But other than that, I guess one other thing from the game that I noticed, the Raiders had a chance at, let's say, 2 interceptions for sure, maybe 3. Hobbs almost picked one off. So did, I believe, Jacorian Bennett, and Jack Jones had a shot at one. They didn't get any of them. Well, if you need at least 2 interceptions to go your way in order to beat the Panthers, you got a lot of problems as a team. So they're going to play against someone who I would say is just as vulnerable, maybe not as vulnerable, but has quite a bit of vulnerability to them as well in the Cleveland Browns, a team that offensively can't get it together. They're going to be playing a mirror of themselves in many ways. And if they can't figure it out, you're going to see a lot of changes. O'Connell's going to be playing. Minshew's going to be done. The trade rumors of Devontae Adams are going to start in full with some actual legitimacy. And then there's going to be real talk about what Antonio Pierce's future is with the team. But all of that can go away, Derek, if they just win. That's the thing. Like if they just win and they get out of the first 4 games 2-2, people go, okay, let's see what they can do going forward. But I'll tell you this, it's going to be very hard to win games. And we talked about this during the offseason, in the preseason, and now. If they cannot score, you can't win. You cannot win without scoring these days. Like you need 21 points out of your offense. You're not going to win without it.
Well, if I remember correctly, Antonio Pierce was asked what he wants to see in his new offensive coordinator. He said at least 24 points a game.
Yeah, well, he's not getting that.
No, they scored 26, and that's how they won week 2. But besides that, they scored 22, but yeah, it's less than the total that he was looking for. Yeah, dude. I hear on everything, but the Browns, I know that they're 1-2 right now, but they have way more talent than the Panthers do.
Oh yeah.
And I really
have a quarterback problem too. Deshaun Watson's not lighting it up for him.
No, he's not. But I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if he did. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. It was just a horrible performance all the way around, and it seems like the Raiders, they just never build off of a good thing.
No.
In recent years, there's been moments of that, like. Obviously they made the playoffs with Rich Bisaccia and, other games, other seasons, but like it was just so typical Raiders. Like and I'm saying this, I'm getting mad because I used to be a fan, but there's still that silver and black in me that like when I'm watching that, I'm like, what the fuck, guys? Yeah. So it is what it is. They had a pitiful performance, and we'll see if they rebound.
And if they do, what's going to happen after that? That's really the important part.
Well, that's the thing.
Okay, you do one good thing. Are you able to, like what you said, build off of it? Or is it going to be 2 steps forward, 3 steps back every time?
Yes. And when you build off of that, you act like you're like, I would love one of the leaders after a win. Like, let's say they beat the Cleveland Browns. I want a locker room speech where they say, all right, no more cigars, guys. We got to treat this like this is the norm. It's not a fucking party every time we win. Just I'm over that shit. That's ridiculous. Speaking of the crowd, how lively was it for the halftime show of Big Boy, Tretch, and Too Short?
It was incredible. It was lit.
Well, that's a hell of a lineup right there.
It was great. They all did, all their hits and everything. The crowd loved it. Even the halftime performers were trying to say comebacks happening in the second half. Like even they were like, "Come on, Raiders!" So it was interesting. Usually the halftime performers don't do that, but they did this time. It was good. It was like I said, the Raiders have nothing to complain about with the atmosphere. The atmosphere was perfect. It was a great day to be at a game. Just the game ended up happening, so it made it not so great.
Yeah, no, that I can imagine. So we'll see how the Raiders respond, and we'll see what kind of football team this is.
They had a deal, by the way, that I did. It was awesome. It was like a 3.5 hour, 4 hour, organization provided tailgate, all kinds of TVs and fun and games and different stuff. All you can eat, all you can drink. That was awesome before the game, and they did a good job of that. So from an entertainment standpoint that has nothing to do with football, they're doing a lot of the right things, and it's keeping fans engaged. But no, that stuff only lasts for so long before people start checking out on stuff like that too.
Yep. So like I said, man, we'll see how the Raiders respond, and
I think they're going to win, Derek.
Well, you always think they're going to win, Alon.
I'd like to. Yeah, I don't always think they're going to win. On here, I do. Not in my heart of hearts.
Yeah. No.
But I think they have a good chance of. It's going to be a close game. I think against Cleveland, it could go field goal either way. And I think all the wins that the Raiders have this year are going to be that way. I think the losses that they'll have, there will be more where they are blown out by more than 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, no, I hear you on that one. So, and they got to get the running game going. Zamir White, that looks like a total downgrade at this point, going from Josh Jacobs to him.
I also wonder how well Josh Jacobs would do behind this blocking scheme, though, because
you're probably not wrong.
Yeah, I don't know. I think there's one person in that organization right now who could fix everything, and it's Luke Getsy. But he needs to figure it out, and whether he has the ability to do so or not, that's up to him. And
Yep.
I'm sick of him, not him. I'm sick of people questioning the ingredients. Like, you know, you don't have a guy who's never played in the NFL at quarterback. Like, do something, please. It can't be run up the middle for 6 yards and then be in a third and 4, 3rd and 5 every set of downs.
Yeah, I mean, Minshew has lit it up before. It's just he doesn't look comfortable at all in this offense. And he has, I mean, Devontae, Trey Tucker, Jacoby Myers, there are pieces. And God, Brock Bowers looks great.
Brock Bowers, yeah.
There are pieces. It's just not clicking right now.
No, all he's got to do is stand back there and be the trigger man. I'm not asking him to be Jim Kelly, but he's got to do something.
Yeah. And, the defense has to play with, their hairs on fire every week because that's what is the strongest unit on this team.
Yeah.
The offense can put up points if it's clicking, but they also, like, I will give Minshew a little bit of slack in that he has not had a running game to work with at all.
None.
Whatsoever.
Yeah.
Like, he dropped back and threw that thing to beat the Ravens, and that was impressive. But he hasn't had the ability to do some play action fakes, bootlegs, get the 2 tight end set going. There's a lot of things that have been left on the table because the running game has not been developed yet.
Correct.
So maybe that comes. Maybe it'll be better with Aiden O'Connell. I don't know right now. The team just sucked.
Yeah.
That's what it is. I'm not ready to say this team sucks. I don't want to do absolutes like that, but it was clear they sucked on Sunday.
Yeah, no, they sucked on Sunday. That's why there's not that. It's amazing we went 35 minutes talking about it because there's not that much to talk about other than they just sucked.
Yeah.
And that's kind of all I care to say about it. I mean, they sucked, and I want to be as nice as possible without going overboard.
No, I'm with you, man. And by the way, Tacky has jumped into the chat now and now is upset that I accused him of being this fake Derek Papa. I don't know. You think so? You think he's just going back and forth here like it's a Kaiser Soze thing?
Why would he jump in and be like, "How dare you?"
Yeah,
that's Kevin Durant on his
burner.
Yeah, on his burner, being like, you don't go at that guy that way."
Yeah, kind of quick for you to respond, Tacky. That's all I'm saying.
Suspicious.
Yep. All right, let's go to the Niner game. Not a good performance either. It started off great. Let me start with the positives because there's a lot more to be happy with the Niners, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think Brock Purdy had a fantastic performance. He looked incredible, to be completely honest with you. And Juwan Jennings, I would say right now, is the most reliable receiver on the team. Because you want Brandon Ayuk to be that guy to get you 11 catches for 175 yards and 3 touchdowns. If you're paying him $30 million a year, that's not what you got. You got the lowest paid receiver on the team. Well, I shouldn't say that, but he got a new contract this offseason. But between the 3 guys that are your main guys, Debo, Ayuk, and Juwan, he's making the least amount of money. And he had a fantastic performance. And what's being lost in this conversation is that Brock went out and balled despite not having his best players. That's always been the narrative is, let's see how Brock does when he doesn't have all of his galaxy of stars. And I would say that was accurate a year ago. When he did not have McCaffrey or Debo for a certain amount of games, he looked lost. And he looked great. His mobility was amazing against the Rams. To pick up first downs, to elude pressure in the pocket, to pick up first downs on QB sneaks. He had an amazing game. And the defense let him down. Special teams especially let him down. Between the fake punt, the missed field goal by Jake Moody, and the big return at the end of the game, the special teams had an awful performance. And that's 2 weeks in a row. The block punt that the Vikings had on them to lead to all of this mess, it's not getting better for Brian Schneider in that group. And, the defensive line did their part. It was just a secondary. Travarius Ward got beat by Tutu Atwell several times. And you have to give credit to Matthew Stafford. The guy can sling it. He had an amazing performance. Kyron Williams was great. And Sean McVay knows how to scheme it up. I know that the Rams were decimated with injuries, but when you have good coaching in this league and good quarterback play, you're going to keep yourself in games. I know they got blown out 41-10 the week before, but that's how a team responds. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Should have muted myself. But yeah, I think it was, no leads are safe in the NFL, in my opinion. No matter if you're up by 21, the Niners were up 14 two different times, but it wasn't an insurmountable lead. And they could have easily put that game on ice with a Jake Moody made field goal from 55 yards out. And it wasn't too long. People are like, was it too long of Kyle to kick that field goal?
No. It's just a hard kick.
Yeah.
That's all it is. But it's not a kick that he can't make.
He made two 50-yard field goals in the Super Bowl.
So
if he makes the field goal, the game's over. I can't blame Ronnie Bell for dropping that pass. I know people are killing him. He's a very inexperienced receiver. And you expect guys to come up with that ball. He doesn't get the ball thrown to him that much. You'd like for him to come down with that ball, but I can't kill him for dropping that pass. I can criticize Kyle Shanahan a little bit for not running the ball a little bit more in the fourth quarter. I believe Jordan Mason only had 4 carries in the fourth quarter for whatever reason.
And he was having a really strong game on the ground too. So
that's the one thing I would question with Kyle. But I'm not gonna. Some people just hate the man. Like, people just don't like him. And I think he's one of the best play callers in football. So I cannot say that Kyle Shanahan lost him that game. I think that guys like Devondre Campbell attributed to it with penalties and being not very good in coverage. So it was a calamity of errors for where the Niners lost that game. It was a blown missed opportunity. But really, is it the end of the world? I would say no, because the NFC is totally just all over the place right now. Like, the two teams that are undefeated are the Vikings and Seahawks, and both have really good defenses. But if I'm being completely honest, do I buy both of them in the long run? No.
Yeah, look at the quarterbacks.
Exactly. And look at all the other teams, the NFC, that were expected to compete with the Niners, the Eagles, the Lions, the Cowboys, all have losses right now. So let's not freak out. I know the injury situation's not good. We'll get more into that. Despite how brutal the loss was, I wouldn't say let's start freaking out over the 49ers. They have some winnable games coming up against the Patriots and the Cardinals. It's a brutal loss. And you also got to take into account that the Rams have been dominated by the Niners in recent years. I mean, they haven't beat Kyle Shanahan has dominated Sean McVay. And it's funny to me that picture's going around now where Sean McVay is kind of ruffling up his hair, being like, it's okay, sport, when Kyle Shanahan's been the one to dominate McVay for the longest time. And McVay got some revenge finally. But yeah, it was brutal, and sports talk radio has been crazy this whole week. But I would say let's calm down a little bit. I think the Niners will be just fine.
Yeah, no, Brock Purdy. So I was happy that I almost got proven right. I said he was going to pass for over 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. He got close to it. He played nearly a perfect game. Can you really blame him for getting sacked? No, you can't. That's not on him. His mobility was amazing. He was able to run for first downs, dive and weave himself around without taking big hits. I thought he kind of willed Jennings to have the game that Jennings had. In all honesty, like throwing it up there to him, letting him make some big plays, like that showed me a ton of confidence out of Brock Purdy. And that had always been the knock on him through last year was, can he do it without his weapons? Is he really that good? I think he really is that damn good now. Like, I saw that and I went, okay, so everybody who thought, it's a matter of circumstance as to why he's so successful. Bullshit. The guy can sling it. He's really good. And if anything, I want to see more of that. If I'm a Niners fan, like, I understand, they could have kept running the ball, especially in the second half. They could have been more aggressive doing that. But when I see Brock Purdy go out there and have a performance like that, he doesn't turn the ball over through the air. He throws 3 touchdowns. His yards per pass is really good. I want to see more of that. Okay.
Mhm.
So he threw it, what, 30 times? Let's have him throw it 35 or 40 times. I know that's not the classic recipe for success for this Kyle Shanahan led team, but shit, it looks like you got a guy back there who can be the MVP. So, I don't know. Before we got on the podcast, Derek, I said I'm still in shock. I don't know how they lost this game. It was as if they just had it, and then the Rams decided to. Matthew Stafford somehow wills them to victory at the end. Kyron Williams had a really good game running the ball for the Rams. Special teams breakdowns. I just don't get it. I mean, was the one turnover really the difference? I guess you could say it was because it was a 3-point game, but give me a break. I mean, it was one of those games where watching it back, I was like, because I already knew the score. I knew the outcome, right? But just watching it on replay, I was like, how do they lose this game? I don't get it. And the only thing I can think of is in terms of time of possession, maybe milking the clock more by having a better running game in the second half, giving your running back more carries. But I don't know, man. Brock Purdy plays that well. You got to look at the defense and the special teams, every other unit there, and say, we can't lose this game when our quarterback plays like that. It's inexcusable.
No, I agree.
And it's not like Matthew Stafford lit the world on fire. I mean, he did have over 200 yards on less than 20 completions and a touchdown, but they did a pretty good job on him most of the game.
They did. They pressured him, but he was able to have deep passes to Tutu Atwell and to Marcus Robinson and Kyron Williams. I mean, he had a very good game with three touchdowns.
Yeah, he had a hell of a game.
He did. And if I had to pinpoint one thing, I think it was special teams. I think it was the fake field goal or the fake punt, the missed field goal by Moody, and to give up that huge return when the Rams are gaining momentum.
Do you think the Niners win that game with just one more of their weapons being available?
No. I don't think Debo being out there changes really that much. I mean, Juwan Jennings had an amazing game, that was like that caught the Rams off guard. I think that maybe they need to run the football a little bit more, but in the end, they would have won that game if Moody makes the field goal. And kickers miss field goals.
No Dre Greenlaw on the defensive side.
Yeah, that too. I know this is gonna sound nuts, but like, I don't think the Niners played that bad. I think it was just the Rams fighting back and just blowing opportunities. Everything that could go wrong for the Niners did. And I don't think it'll happen again.
Well, that's what I'm saying, Derek. I'm saying the same thing. Like, I thought they played a really damn good game, and they found a way to lose.
Yeah, I think it was just an anomaly. I think it was crazy. I think the Rams were kicked down so many times by this team, and they hear about Levi South and all that. They came back and fought, and they didn't want to go to 0-3. So I know that everyone's panicking. I would tell everybody it's going to be okay, and I know the injuries suck. So on top of the loss, Javon Hargrave's out for the season with a torn tricep, and that's big. I'm not going to deny that.
He had a sack too.
He had a sack. A lot of people said it was his best performance of the season. He was coming into his own after kind of a, so-so first season with the Niners. And I think their defensive tackle depth is kind of thin, to be completely honest. I didn't like it going into the season. I wasn't like, Malik Collins is playing really well. It was kind of because I didn't really know him from the Texans. So he's playing well. Jordan Elliott is now going to have to step in and be that guy, but is that enough? Is it going to hurt them in the run game a lot more now and not getting pressure from the interior side of the football and just kind of, as Bosa going to have to deal with a shit ton of double teams now?
That's yes, he is going to have to deal with that.
Yes. But they can find a way to get around that. Maybe they need to make a move to get another defensive tackle at the deadline. Who knows? The McCaffrey stuff is interesting. I'm not going to deny that either. It's pretty clear that he did something significant in training camp and it never healed. Or he tweaked something in training camp, tried to go back really, really hard at practice right before the Minnesota game. It fucked it up even worse.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened exactly. But when you hear Christian McCaffrey is going to Germany to get his Achilles tendonitis looked at.
To see a specialist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is good for the long term, I would say, but bad for the short term. And we had Dr. Chow on today, Dr. David Chow, who's been a long-time NFL doctor. He warned everybody, don't expect him to come back once his time is up on IR. It's not going to be that quick. And whatever special injections he's getting in Germany, that's going to take some time too. Guys like Kobe Bryant went to Germany to get his Achilles looked at and shit like that. Who knows? I have no idea. I'm not a doctor. I don't pretend like I know any of that stuff. I would just say that the Niners definitely can get by without McCaffrey. He'll come back this season. I don't doubt that. Or maybe maybe they want to take it extremely cautious with a brand new contract. And Achilles is something you really don't want to fuck with.
I think when they make the playoffs, let's say he hasn't been able to get back on the field, they'll find a way to put him on the field for that. Or he will find a way to go, is what I'm saying. But I agree with you. Maybe not earlier than that. They're going to want to be safe.
Yeah. I mean,
could you imagine when they're trying to make a playoff run? Like, no, they're going to make the playoffs. I don't have any qualms about that.
All right. Okay. I think so too.
Yeah. When they make the playoffs, do you see him not going? I mean, it would have to be horrible for him not to. And I think if there was a shred of hope that he would be able to go, I don't think the team would hold him back from doing that because they know that this would be another opportunity. I mean, to be able to get back there that quick like they did last year would be huge for them. And if Brock Purdy keeps playing this way, I mean, we talked about this ad nauseum, they're going to have to pay him.
No, I mean, they will. I think that, I mean, it's hard to say. Like, shit, it kind of reminds me a little bit of when Todd Gurley was having an MVP season. And right before the playoffs, we heard that he has knee tinnitus. And he never was the same. And his career shortly ended after that. But I don't think it's to that detriment. I hope not. But I don't know. I don't know what the Niners are going to do with McCaffrey at this point. I think they have to prepare for they're not going to have him for the foreseeable future. That may include this season, but who knows? They can get by. They definitely have used lesser talent at running back. Mm-hmm. And I think they're fine with Jordan Mason. They may need to pick up another running back, but maybe they don't need him until the playoffs. Maybe you're right, Alon. But they'll get Debo back. Ayuk needs to start performing like a $30 million wide receiver. Juwan Jennings has proven that he could take over games. I mean, shit, his two best performances of his career, that and the Super Bowl, have been overshadowed because they lost in the end. So I think they'll be fine. It sucks with all the injuries, and they really can't afford any more. Kittle's coming back. I know that Purdy had some back soreness, but he's going to be fine. I think it's just early season losses. Like they were 1-2 a couple years ago at the 2022 season, and they lost to some shitty teams in the Bears and the Broncos. I don't think the two teams they lost to are bad at all. I think the Vikings have proven that they're one of the stronger teams in the NFC right now. And the Rams are the Rams. They have Stafford and McVay. They're going to keep you in games. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't be overly concerned. I know it seems like the sky is falling between the injuries and the losses. It's a good time to play the Patriots. A good time to play the Cardinals.
They're going to win 12 games for sure this year.
You think so? Okay.
11 or 12.
I don't know about 12, but I still think they're making the playoffs. Yeah.
Yeah. I still think they're like cream of the crop in the NFC. I think they do need to get a little healthy, obviously. But this evolution that I saw out of Purdy on Sunday, or not evolution, maybe just reinforcement of how good he really is. I mean, if you're a Niner fan, yeah, it sucks right now that you've lost 2 games. You're 1-2 instead of 2-1, let's say. But the fact is, it's like, man, if your quarterback's going to play that well, and that's the team that he's on with that coaching staff and how good they've been over the years under Shanahan, I just don't see them falling off a cliff. I don't see it. It shouldn't be all doom and gloom. So I'm with you there, Derek. Like, people shouldn't be panicking. And I know the go-to, especially in sports radio in the Bay Area, is like, oh my gosh, the sky is falling. Like you said, everything's over. This team's not as good as we thought. It's 3 games into the year. Your quarterback's playing damn well now. So just ride it out. See what happens.
Yeah. And I would kind of relate this loss to the Browns game a year ago. I think they had a 10-point lead in that game. Just some bad turnovers. They kept the Browns back in the game. I mean, Stefanski schemed it up kind of like the way McVay did. Moody missed a field goal at the end, and they were fine. I'm not going to say that the Niners are missing the playoffs just because they lost 2 games. They lost 3 games in a row last year, and they were fine after that. Let's see what happens. Same thing with the Raiders. Let's see what happens, how they respond. Let's see if they come out flat, then by all means, you could say that this team doesn't know how to respond. But let's see how they react after these losses.
Yeah, and getting the Patriots up next, that's huge. Let's just say I'm going to say that's a win. I mean, they're not going to lose to the Patriots. Then the Cardinals and the Seahawks. That we'll find out how good the Seahawks really are in that game, because I think the Niners are going to come into that game fired up and ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, I think it's still Niners. It's still their division. It's still their season to lose, but I would back off on some of the craziness. I think they just had some bad breaks on Sunday, and like I said, I'm still kind of in shock that they even lost the game, because I was like, oh, they're 21-7. Oh, no big deal. They should be able to ride this thing out and win the game. And you know what? The Rams, Matthew Stafford, they find a way, but that's also a divisional rival who doesn't like you very much either. So there's always, it's a rivalry game. You can, what do they say? Throw the record books out for this one. So
Yep.
I mean, that's kind of what happened, but I'm not worried about the Niners. They're a freaking machine.
I'm not that worried either. So let's go around the league a little bit to just react to how the rest of the league turned out for week 3. And also let me call quick hits. And I'll start with the Minnesota Vikings and Houston Texans game. I think the Vikings loss the Niners faced 2 weeks ago looks a little bit better now, because they dominated the Houston Texans. And I thought the Texans may have a little problem in this game because I didn't think they looked good offensively against the Bears, but the Bears looked terrible in that game, so they got by. But damn, man, Sam Darnold's playing great football right now. 4 touchdown passes. The offense dominated. They're not doing anything, crazy with the offense. They just have good playmakers. Throwing the ball to Justin Jefferson, you're throwing ball in the flat to Aaron Jones, you're throwing it to Justin Naylor. They don't even need Jordan Addison right now. They're just, this is where, you could have your leader of men in certain coaches, the Mike Tomlins, the Dan Campbells, but guys like Kevin O'Connell who can get the most out of, Sam Darnold and lesser known guys. It's pretty impressive. On the flip side, I mean, that defense all over the Houston Texans and CJ Stroud was impressive.
Yeah.
They're playing fantastic. Andrew Van Ginkel is playing lights out. Brian Flores is scheming that up fantastic. And Texans have some work to do offensively. They've had some trouble keeping their quarterback upright the last 2 weeks. So I would say right now the Minnesota Vikings are probably the most balanced team in football right now. I like to see how they do against the Green Bay Packers this week. I'm not panicking about the Texans. They kind of needed that loss early on in this year, in the season. But I came away very impressed by the Minnesota Vikings.
That was the first time I can really remember CJ Stroud just every drop back being just hounded left and right. It didn't seem like he was able to get any rhythm going all game. He does throw a couple of picks. But back to the Vikings, I'm not worried about the Texans. They're still a pretty young upstart team, so I would assume that they're the kind of team that'll get right back at it and then continue to get better as they have been over about the past year and a half. But the Vikings, if they can keep getting 100 yards out of Aaron Jones on the ground, that's a very difficult team to deal with, and he's going to have some extra motivation going against the Packers next week. So I mean, I don't know. You get 150. I mean, it's like the Saints, right? When they get all these yards receiving and running out of Kamara, how do you stop that? Are you going to key in on Kamara and then let wide receivers run wide open and let Sam Darnold decide? Darnold didn't even really have to do much. I mean, I know he had the 4 touchdowns, but they put that game away so fast. I mean, I don't know. They look good. I liked what they did against the Niners in week 2, but this was a whole nother level from them. So if there was an early season power rankings, I think you'd be very hard pressed not to put them in the top 3. with the way they're playing offensively and defensively. And I know it's the Vikings, but you might even have to put them at 1 right now.
You definitely might have to. I mean, with the Chiefs right now, they're getting by. They're defending champs, but from all phases of the game, the Vikings are clicking on all cylinders.
Yeah.
Let's go to the Minnesota or the Eagles beating the New Orleans Saints 15-12. Eagles defense responded very well. They were coming in against the highest scoring offense in football, a letdown performance against the Atlanta Falcons, and the defense held them in that game for most of the time. And it wasn't until the fourth quarter until the Eagles scored some points. And I thought Nick Sirianni, man, there's nothing wrong with kicking some field goals. That'll be a trend in what I talk about with some of these games,
especially when it's 3-0 for three quarters.
It's 3-0. It's 3. Like, take the lead.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, between Jalen Hurts throwing a terrible interception in the end zone to Tyrann Mathieu, or either it was Tyrann Mathieu or Marshawn Lattimore, whoever it was, bad pick, bad decisions, taking sacks on 4th and 1s, or whatever it is, 4th and 3s, just whatever it was. Just kick the field goal, Nick. Like, you're lucky you won that game. It's just terrible decision making. Kicking field goals keeps you alive in football games. I don't understand the hesitancy. And then when they do kick a field goal, it's a 48-yarder, and Jake Elliott can't make it. You don't give your kicker enough practice. So thank God the Eagles defense kept them in that game. They didn't get enough sacks, but at least they were causing enough pressure on Derek Carr, and Darius Slay and the rookie Quinyon Mitchell were doing a great job at Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed. And then Dallas Goedert having an amazing performance, especially on that last drive, looking like George Kittle against the Saints in 2019. Saquon Barkley rebounded from dropping that pass. But yeah, I thought the Eagles responded well. Could have easily lost that game, but they were resilient and scored the game-winning touchdown. And, I'm not going to say typical Derek Carr throwing a game-sealing interception, but it was bad. That was a bad throw. Yeah. But he's been playing fine prior to that. They just, the defensive scheme of the Eagles got to him. So, good win by the Eagles. But I did appreciate Nick Sirianni, despite his dumbass decisions in that game. I did appreciate him saying this is not sustainable in the way we play football.
Yeah, I mean, he knows they can't get into 3-0 dogfights for 3.5 quarters. You can't have that. It's not winning football. Jalen Hurts is going to have to start making much better decisions. He still looks clunky. I would say that offense still looks clunky. It finally started picking up at the end. I don't know who the game ball went for that game, but if they had 2 of them, one should have went to Saquon, or they should have had 3, 1 to the defense, 1 to Saquon, 1 to Goddard. They've been trying to get Goddard going all season, and they finally get a massive breakout performance with him. I mean, like almost 200 yards out of your tight end. That's insane. I will say this about the Saints, and this was one of my correct picks for the week, by the way. I thought this game would be low scoring. I didn't know it would be this low. But I thought the Eagles would come in and take care of business. But, man, I mean, they're living on a knife edge playing the way that they're playing. Derek Carr for the Saints, and I'm sure Saints fans now know this, but everyone knows there's going to be a game to 3 or 4 games like this every season where the other defense just has a really good scheme. He doesn't feel comfortable, and he's not going to take those deep shots that he will against other teams that are either more aggressive or that are giving him the looks that he wants pre-snap. So they did a really good job against him. That's just part of the Derek Carr experience that you deal with. I will say this, the other thing for the Saints, they weren't able to get that. I mean, I talked about Kamara, kind of comparing it to what the Vikings are getting out of Aaron Jones right now. They weren't able to get that big Kamara game the way they have the previous 2 weeks, so that didn't help them at all either. That being said, if you're the Saints, you're playing that game at home, you got to feel like you got to be able to do something. It's 3-0 for 3.5 quarters, and that's all you can muster. I mean, that game was up for grabs for both teams, and at one point in the fourth quarter, it did look like the Saints were going to win, but the Eagles just, showed a lot of grit and did a good job. I don't know. Jalen Hurts has to do better. His decision-making has to be better. Nick Sirianni's decision-making has to be better. That defense, if they keep playing that way, they should have no problems for the rest of the season. And that's kind of the rebound we were expecting of the Eagles, but maybe not. I know a lot of people weren't expecting it this week because the Saints light everybody up so far.
Yeah, but I give a lot of credit to Vic Fangio and the defensive scheme he put together. And yes, you are right, Alon. There'll be games like that from Derek Carr during a season. And I kind of related to in 2016 when the Raiders were lighting it up offensively with Amari Cooper and Michael Crabtree, and Derek was taking deep shots. And then there was the game that we wanted him to take the next step against the Kansas City Chiefs on that Thursday night football game, and he looked terrible. And wasn't going down. Like the only time he went downfield was when he hit the spider cam, and the ball went all crazy. That was kind of like this. It was where Vic Fangio was making Derek Carr very uncomfortable. And Dennis Allen did a fantastic job with his defensive scheme on the Eagles. It was just Saquon Barkley broke the game open. So, yeah, good win by the Eagles. I think the Saints are still pretty good. They just played, a really good team in the Eagles. So we'll see where both teams go from here. I think the Steelers have the best defense in all football. And that's not a crazy take to have because they have so many number one achievements in the categories right now, whether it's points allowed or yards or whatever it is. And TJ Watt's having a great season. The defense is just keeping that team alive right now. And the offense is doing enough in the running game with Justin Fields or Najee Harris. Calvin Austin had a great game against the Chargers. The Chargers defense is playing really well too. Khalil Mack getting sacks, Bud Dupree getting a pick. Justin Herbert looked pretty good to start, throwing that touchdown pass, 2 weeks in a row now, 3 touchdowns from Quentin Johnston. But he got hurt. He was hobbled, and that kind of was a difference in that game. The Steelers pulled away, but I'm not out on the Chargers. I want to see Justin Herbert healthy and for him to come back, whatever he's dealing with, the ankle sprain or whatever he's got right now. And Justin Fields is doing enough to win. I still don't know if he gives you enough offensively. There may be a time where they think about going to Russell Wilson, but right now the Steelers are playing some damn good football.
Yeah, and Mike Tomlin's really, I think, done a good job as well, because he knows he has a real leader in that locker room in Russell Wilson, but he also knows that Justin Fields is doing a good job for them as well right now for what they need. So he's doing a good job of kind of I don't know, Justin Fields is their starter, but he's not saying, oh, he's the number one guy kind of thing. He's really managing that quite well. The Chargers, I thought they would go and win this game. I thought, okay, this is kind of when Harbaugh puts a stamp on it, and everyone's like, damn, they are contenders, not just contenders, but they're a tough effing football team to deal with.
Yeah.
They end up losing and obviously getting banged up. That's not good for Herbert, and he does have a history of getting banged up throughout the season. So that's not good, but we mentioned it last week, Derek. I mean, I know he only threw the ball 18 times. I don't think that's a good recipe for them going forward. I think they have to throw the ball with him. And I know that maybe they don't like all the playmakers they have on the outside for him to throw to, but he's Justin Herbert. He can make all the throws and he can really take over games. And I'm still waiting for that from the Chargers. Hard defense to do it against in the Steelers. But going forward I think they're going to have to loosen up a little bit there. I know Greg Roman wants to run the ball. I know Harbaugh wants to run the ball. That's how they built that team. I mean, Roman gets to bring in both his running backs from Baltimore to come over there to run his system and everything. But, let Herbert air it out. That's the reason he was drafted to begin with. And that's why everybody loves Justin Herbert, is because he can throw the rock around.
I think they were taking a little easy on Herbert too, and once he started getting hobbled, they took him out of the game. The good thing they don't have Easton Stick as their backup anymore, because at least they have a guy that can win a couple games if Herbert's out with Taylor Heineke. But I hear you. I think they just want to be more of a balanced team right now in the Chargers, but I think Herbert will be fine. I think there may have to be games where he drops back 40 times a game, but this wasn't the game for that. Steelers are that good of a defense. Moving over to the Green Bay Packers, they beat the Tennessee Titans 30-14. And I don't think enough credit has been given to Matt LaFleur and what he's doing with Malik Willis in the absence of Jordan Love. He's had a fantastic game, or fantastic 2 games. He played great against the Colts, did enough to win that game, didn't light it up offensively or passing, but he's running the football effectively, and to get payback against the team that drafted him and ultimately sent him away in the Titans was really impressive. And I think the defense for the Packers is really good right now. And Will Levis is just, he flashes at times. He makes really good throws, and then he is turnover prone. He got sacked, I believe, 8 times against the Green Bay Packers. And man, that offensive line is not helping him. But man, the fumbles, the pick sixes, yeah, it's not great for Will Levis right now. And I haven't heard any sound bites this week from Brian Callahan throwing him under the bus. But I give kudos to Malik Willis and Matt LaFleur and that defense. And I think the Packers are going to be that much better, I believe, once Jordan Love comes back this week to play against the Vikings.
Matt LaFleur, perfect example of a guy, offensive guy, who actually watched his backup quarterback or his quarterback's college tape. He's got Malik Willis looking like how he did over at Liberty University before he was drafted. I mean, dual threat, able to throw when he needs to, able to take care of the ball effectively, and then also just chew up yards on the ground. It was a great performance by Malik Willis. Will Levis on the other side, I wasn't a fan of his in college, and every week I see like, oh, wow, what a great throw, great arm strength, good job here, and then just some really bad decision-making too. The Titans, I mean, they're 0-3. I know it's still early, but that is starting to look like a complete, we got to kind of retool everything here. I'm not saying get rid of the quarterback, but I'm just saying this is going to be a growing process with them.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they're a rebuilding team, even though they went out and spent money here or there on the defensive side of the football and getting L'Jarius Sneed and Jamal Adams, Tony Pollard, Calvin Ridley, but it's not clicking right now. And Will Levis is struggling a little bit. They played some good teams too, some good defenses, but they're not putting it together right now. And I think the Packers, man, they're looking like a really good team. They've rebounded well past that Eagle game where they lost Jordan Love, and we'll see if Jordan Love comes back. And now they're back to being an air raid and running the football effectively with Josh Jacobs, and they're running the football well with this guy Emmanuel Wilson, number 31 for them. And they don't even have their guy Marshawn Lloyd, the running back from USC, out there right now. So I'm really impressed with what the Packers are doing. And the other team in the NFC North that people were expecting to take the next jump, and I thought the expectations were ridiculous with a rookie quarterback. Caleb Williams struggled again against the Indianapolis Colts. Probably had his best passing performance so far in his early career, throwing 2 touchdowns, but some bad interceptions. And man, the offensive line for the Bears, there's no way around it. It's just not very good. Like that 4th and 1 play they were in with the pitch to DeAndre Swift, and there's no blocking whatsoever. All the offensive linemen fall down. The entire Colts defensive line comes through immediately, and that's like a 4-yard loss and a 4th and 1. And the defense keeps them in games. I'll say this too. Man, Anthony Richardson, at times he looks amazing. Like this is why when me and Steven were talking about it, I did not want the Raiders to go after him because I thought there'd be a lot of growing pains with him. Mm-hmm. There are times where he flashes and he looks incredible. And then there's the play I saw against the Bears where he's running to his left and then just lofts it in the end zone for a abysmal duck that gets picked off by is it Tremaine Edmonds? Yeah, Tremaine Edmonds.
Tremaine Edmonds, yeah.
Yeah, Tremaine Edmonds, the linebacker for the Bears. He just makes some terrible throws sometimes. And there's a lot that he has to work on too. And I was going to say, people have thrown this out there, and I don't think it's terrible. I do wonder at some point if Shane Steichen is so frustrated with the quarterback play that he's like, there's a lot to learn with Anthony Richardson on both sides for us, how we use him, how he needs to play. Maybe we go with Flacco for a little while, just to win some games. And then we bring in Anthony Richardson. I don't think benching quarterbacks is something that hurts confidence or means that they can't play in that system ever again. I don't believe in that. I think that Bryce Young will play for the Panthers once again. I do believe that. And I don't think that Anthony Richardson, if he sat a couple games and Joe Flacco came in, I don't think that'd be the end of the world. So but mainly the Colts played a great game defensively, and they ran the football very well with Jonathan Taylor. It's just that the Bears, I mean, they got to figure things out offensively. There's times where Caleb Williams looks really comfortable, and there's times where he doesn't look comfortable. And I don't know what his relationship is like with Shane Steichen. He looked very frustrated with him at times. Don't know if he's the answer. I don't know if Matt Eberflus is the answer at head coach. We'll see with the Bears. I'm not going to say that Caleb Williams is a bust 3 games into his career. I think that's ridiculous. I still think they made the right move in picking him over Justin Fields. It's just going to take some time. They may not be a playoff team. God forbid.
Yeah, they may not be a playoff team with a rookie quarterback. Look, they have a rookie quarterback who had to throw the ball over 50 times. His protection is not great. They're getting no running game. They got none this past weekend. I think they rushed under 70 yards or something like that. It wasn't good. It's interesting you bring up the Flacco thing with Anthony Richardson, because that's fundamentally not going to change the way that the Colts play. If anything, it might let them take care of the ball a little bit better, because they're still going to try to be the ground and pound with Taylor. And if Taylor keeps playing the way that he did against the Bears, I mean, that shouldn't change anything. You know, he goes for over 100 yards, has a couple of touchdowns. And we also have Flacco still probably has in the tank after what he did last year with Cleveland. But Anthony Richardson, it's so interesting because, like you said, he has talent like through the roof. Some of the capabilities that he has, some of the throws he can make, just his ability to, you know, he can outrun a defense if he really needs to as well. But at the same time, some of the decision making is just not there. In some aspects, it does remind me kind of when Malik Willis was thrown in as a starter for Tennessee. It just looked like the decision making, you know, the pressure's so big, and sometimes you're just still throwing it up there like you're in college. But in the NFL, everybody's pretty smart and is going to be in the right position. So I don't know. Anthony Richardson, that's definitely a growing pains thing over there for them. But they do have the backup that they can go to, and the running game that'll take care of them, and a defense that'll take care of them as well. So they can kind of go either way. And I agree with you, Derek. I was thinking about this. It shouldn't be a death sentence to, or like, you know, totally confident shattering to bench a quarterback. I mean, it's not like they're never going to play again, number one. Number two, sometimes they need to go watch for a little while to learn a little bit more. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. And especially in today's NFL, where it's like, okay, we drafted you high, you're in there now, go do well, go lead us to the Super Bowl. It's like those expectations are insane.
Yeah,
and everybody can blame Ben Roethlisberger for that.
Well,
and he had a damn good team to work with when he was doing that. That's the part people don't think about.
He did, but he didn't start right away. And Eli Manning didn't start right away. I mean, the guys that really started that trend was Matt Ryan and Joe Flacco.
Yeah, Matt Ryan. Yep, that's true.
And Caleb Williams should be playing.
He's good enough to play.
He is. It's just there's going to be growing pains. He's playing good teams. He was lucky to win that game against the Titans. He played a really good team in pass rush in the Houston Texans, and the Colts are a pretty good team too. He may struggle the next couple games here. He's got a game against the LA Rams coming up, and I know they're decimated with injuries, but they just beat the Niners. So there might be a losing streak going on with the Chicago Bears. I don't think that means that Caleb Williams is going to suck. He may need a better offensive line. He's got enough playmakers.
Yeah.
The offense and him just need to get on the same page.
The good thing for Caleb Williams, too, as well as the Bears, is you can already see that chemistry between him and Rome starting to really develop there, which is huge.
Out of all the wide receivers, it's funny that he's the guy that he relies on the most. I mean, it looks like DJ Moore is frustrated with him, and I'm sure if Keenan Allen was healthy, he'd look to him right now, but I don't know what his deal is right now. By the way, everyone, I think we have an admission of guilt. Tacky just left, and he texted out, "Fake Derek out."
Ooh.
I think that's it. I think we have our man.
You got him.
Son of a bitch. Moving on here. Real quick, we don't need to spend time on these games, but New York Giants did a great job against the Cleveland Browns. There's times where Brian Daboll could scheme it up, and Daniel Jones looks a lot better than what people think of him. And Malik Neighbors is looking like a pretty good pro. It's just whether or not that Daniel Jones will be consistent enough. But they did enough offensively in the first half, didn't score that much in the second half, and man, Deshaun Watson. I mean, that Browns defense kept him in the game in the second half, but good Lord, that offense is really hard to watch right now. And I think Kevin Stefanski is a really good coach. I don't think he should get fired at all. He's won Coach of the Year twice for that team. He got them to the playoffs with Baker Mayfield, and he got them to the playoffs with a mix of P.J. Walker and Dorian Thompson-Robinson and Joe Flacco.
And Joe Flacco.
Yeah. Deshaun Watson, I acknowledge that he's going to have a hard time with both of his starting tackles out. But damn, is he just wildly inaccurate right now. And does not push the ball down the field, has a hard time throwing the football to Amari Cooper and Jerry Jeudy. I don't know if the year off is messing with him, if his body just took too many blows, if he's not getting enough masseuse treatment right now. But God, he just looks terrible. It may go down as one of the worst contracts / trades of all time. But I do acknowledge that he does not have a healthy offensive line, but he's not playing well.
No, yeah, they have offensive line problems with the bookends, but he's been a shell of himself ever since he got to Cleveland.
Yep.
They haven't gotten anything what they've expected out of Deshaun Watson. So, as long as that keeps going on, you can expect these kinds of results. Brian Daboll, on the other hand, is a great coach. I think he's really good, and he's working with limited player back there in Daniel Jones. And when things go right, he can make up for Daniel Jones' deficiencies. I mean, that's about as simple as that. And they made a great pick in Malik Neighbors. So I don't know. I don't have much to say about that game other than the Browns are just going to continue to disappoint until Deshaun Watson plays like Deshaun Watson, but maybe he doesn't have it anymore.
Yeah, we'll see about that. The Broncos defense rattled the Bucs. Great performance from their defense, and Bo Nix did enough. Just kind of similar to the Raider game a little bit, where the Buccaneers, you expect more from them, and they were just caught off guard by a lesser opponent. But Sean Payton can definitely get those guys motivated. So, really impressed by the Broncos. The Dolphins, I mean, not having Tua out there, they just need quarterback help, and I don't know about Skylar Thompson or Tim Boyle or even Tyler Huntley off the practice squad. They need a legit guy throwing them the football. And this is where Tua is a good quarterback. I'm not denying that. My criticism with him is he's a one read guy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when it's perfect for him, he's amazing. Don't deny that. On a play action fake and he sees Tyreek Hill streaking down the middle of the football field and he can zip it to him. Don't deny that. It's when the play breaks down, and then he has to figure out what he wants to do. But they need him right now. They miss him, and he will not be around for the foreseeable future until he gets cleared with his concussion, and he's on IR. And we'll see where he wants to go. I mean, I've heard that Rappaport said that he's not thinking about retirement, but we'll see. Who knows about that? The Seahawks defense is really good right now. I think that Mike McDonald is a really good defensive coach. Geno Smith's doing enough. But they have played weaker opponents so far. They played Bo Nix week 1. They played the Patriots week 2. And then they have the Dolphins without Tua. So I don't know how to judge the Seahawks right now. They look really impressive defensively, and they score enough points to win games. But I don't know. I still don't know if they're like a playoff team yet. I don't know about that. And yeah, the Dolphins, if I were them, I mean, I may kick the tires on, I don't know, Jimmy Garoppolo, maybe to play a couple games. He knows Mike McDaniel.
Some familiarity there. Yep. Yeah.
I mean, or even I don't know what the Chiefs would do backup quarterback wise. Maybe go sign Blaine Gabbert again if they want to do this. This is why trading for a backup quarterback, you have to think about the team that doesn't want to give up the backup quarterback in case something happens. But Carson Wentz is backing up Patrick Mahomes right now. And I know people don't like Carson Wentz, but I think he'd do fine in that Miami Dolphins offense.
Yeah, I think it would help them too, just because of his mobility as well. You do see some reports, should Miami look into getting a Russell Wilson? And it's like, the Steelers aren't going to move off that.
Not
number
yet.
one. Yeah, number two, like it's probably not worth it. But
It's not.
I think the Seahawks are pretty good. I think they're a team that is never going to beat themselves. I mean, that's just kind of the way they're constructed. They play good defense, and they have a quarterback who's good enough to, keep them in games when they need it. And, he's a classic game manager type guy, Geno Smith is. So I have confidence in the Seahawks, but you cannot mince words about how squishy their schedule has been thus far. And especially with, this would have been a lot different had Miami had Tua at starting quarterback, but going against Skyler, it's not good. And Miami needs quarterback help fast, or else they could end up having a lost season. No matter how electrifying their offense can be.
They very well could. The Lions rebounded against the Arizona Cardinals. It was kind of similar to the Eagles having to fight in New Orleans against a hot team. The Arizona Cardinals were kind of like that. And the Lions ran the ball very effectively on the opening drive. They ran it right down the Cardinals' throats, and David Montgomery got in the end zone. Amon-Ra St. Brown played fine despite the injury. Not a lot of production from Jameson Williams. The Lions are getting banged up. Injuries to Sam Laporta and their offensive line and their defensive line. So we'll see how they play the next couple of weeks here with all these injuries kind of piling up. But a beautiful play with the hook and ladder of Amon-Ra St. Brown flipping it to Jahmyr Gibbs for the touchdown. I mean, they put up the points in the first half. They scored 20 and then didn't score another point in the second half. That's the problem with the Lions right now. They're just not scoring enough in a 60-minute ball game. It was week 1. They scored 2 touchdowns in the first half against the Rams, went up 17-3 and lost that lead. They didn't score enough against the Buccaneers, and they scored 20 and didn't do anything else in the second half against the Arizona Cardinals. It's their defense that's a lot better this year. That's been very impressive. And as far as the Cardinals, Kyler Murray's been playing great. He just ran into a really good defense and got pressured by Aiden Hutchinson, and the secondary of the Lions is very much improved. So good win by the Lions, but not necessarily that confident in them going forward. I got to see how they look with the injuries, and they're just not playing great, balanced football for a full 60 minutes.
I think the Lions they got to get back to what they were doing last year, get the speedsters more involved. So I think that means J-Mo's got to get more touches, Jahmyr Gibbs more touches, because you've seen what those guys can do. I think St. Brown, he's always going to be like steady Eddie. You can always rely on him. But just being able to stretch the field more, whether it's out wide or vertically, is going to be huge for them, because they do have some major speed advantages over just about any other team in the NFL. Defensively, I love their defensive backfield, whether it's Terrion Arnold or Brian Branch or, their addition of Amik Robertson. Like, they have a really nice defense. And then Aiden Hutchinson, you know what he's going to give you. The Cardinals shouldn't be worried. It's just they ran into a buzzsaw.
Yeah. The Dallas Cowboys got dominated again for the second week in a row at home. Came back and fought, but the Ravens, they were the more desperate team. They being 0-2, they need to go down there and punch him in the mouth. And they did. Derrick Henry looked like the Derrick Henry of old in Tennessee, running just right downhill at those guys. And I love how everybody's like jumping on Jerry Jones when they asked him, like, how come you didn't sign Derrick Henry? And he was like, well, we couldn't afford him. the real, what he really wanted to say is we had no interest in Derrick Henry. We were trying to pay Dak and CeeDee Lamb, and we'll see about Micah Parsons. But they didn't want to pay Derrick Henry. And you know what? I don't blame them. Because while they really can't run the football right now, some teams want to invest in the running back and some teams don't. And they got Zeke Elliott back on the cheap. They signed Dalvin Cook. They haven't used him yet. But I don't think people should just blame the Cowboys for wanting Derrick Henry. Even though we all thought it was a good fit, I thought that they should have done that. They don't want to do it. The Cowboys answered really well in the fourth quarter, scoring 3 touchdowns. It just, the damage was done at that point. They could have got back in the game if they make a stop on third down, but Lamar Jackson with a good pass to Zay Flowers and then running right up the middle. The Ravens really needed that game. It's 2 bad losses. The defense did not look good for the Cowboys, but Same thing with the Niners. There's too much talent to go around. I'm not that worried about the Dallas Cowboys.
I think until they start getting a semblance of a running game, there's going to be issues for the Cowboys. I'm not saying Dak can't pass the rock. That's what he does. He can do it very well. That's what got them back into this game. But until they have some type of balance, they need something out of that running game, and that's an issue. I actually thought the Cowboys were going to win that game, so I was very impressed by the Ravens being able to do what they did, and not just winning the game ultimately, but really being able to put it out of reach before you even get to the fourth quarter. That's huge.
Definitely. Then the Sunday night game, I thought just missed opportunities by the Atlanta Falcons to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. Great play by Justin Simmons in the end zone. God, their two safeties are incredible between him and Jesse Bates. And Justin Simmons has made a whole career off of picking Patrick Mahomes off. And Mahomes, he's played well this season, but he's thrown a lot of interceptions to start. Travis Kelce, I don't know what the deal is with him. Maybe he's getting older. He's not getting open enough. Don't know. Not going to blame it on Taylor Swift.
It's Taylor.
Yeah, it's Taylor's fault. And you know what? So glad she did not go to the Falcons game, because I'm tired of everyone bitching about when they show her on camera. I don't like it either. It's a little too much, but I can't stand the complaints, because you guys know what it is at this point. It's a business. They want the Swifties to watch the games. Relax. But yeah, the Chiefs did enough to win that football game. Defense played very well. I was impressed with Kirk Cousins' opening drive. He continued where he was from Monday with that game-winning drive to going right down the field and throwing a touchdown pass to Drake London. And then after that, it was kind of tough for him. But I mean, right now, Patrick Mahomes' go-to guy is Rashee Rice. And God, I don't think they were planning on him playing, given the, 8 different charges from his driving incident.
Yeah.
But he's playing until he's convicted of those charges. And the Chiefs are fine. They thought that they were not going to have him. Hollywood Brown is out for most of the season, but they don't need him right now. They got Xavier Worthy. They got Juju. They got Justin Watson.
They got Carson Steele pounding the rock.
Carson Steele, the man that has a pet alligator. And God, I understand, coming from Steven's wedding, I understand that it's when you get a wedding venue and you can nail it down, I get it's difficult. But man, for your sister to plan her wedding during football season, and she's having the wedding on the day that you make your first NFL start, that's tough. I don't blame Carson Steele's sister, because when you can find a day to do the wedding, you take it. But damn, that's inconvenient. That's so damn inconvenient. But Carson Steele played a good game. I will say this, and this is back to Nick Sirianni and his decision to go for it on fourth down. I know that time was of the essence, and I believe there was 5 minutes left or 6 minutes left. The Falcons had 2 different drives in the fourth quarter where they were stopped on fourth down well in Chiefs territory, basically in the red zone both times. There was the questionable pass interference in the end zone that was not called. I know Chris Collinsworth was all over it. I would say I think you don't have to throw the flag there. I understand that it looked like I forget the player, but I would debate that wasn't pass interference. But if they threw the flag there, I wouldn't be mad at it either. I think that there was an argument to be made for Raheem Morris to kick 2 field goals. You're down by 5, win the game by 1 point. I think people get too caught up on, you got to score now. You have to score a touchdown. And some people question the play call on the fourth down play, the 4th and inches, that went to the left, and Tyler Algier was blocking for Bijan Robinson.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a terrible play call. Just the play got blown up. What's wrong? The name of the game is scoring more points than your opponent. If you win by 1, cool. The Falcons could have kicked 2 field goals, and I know that they were running out of time. You don't know if you're going to get the ball back. But I think Belichick kicks field goals in that game. I think other coaches that are not so analytic driven kick some field goals. I don't think you need to go for it every single time. If you have an opportunity, like if it's a one possession game and you think that you can get the ball twice, they kick 2 field goals. I didn't see the need to go for it on both times for the Falcons.
I think a lot of these coaches, and we've seen it really develop. I think Brandon Staley was huge in seeing this develop as well, and not so much in a good way. But even before him, I think a lot of these coaches are feel comfortable with the, okay, I go for it. If I get it, it's a great decision. If I don't, and maybe I get it back and get another try at it again. But even if I don't get it then either, I'm okay with like saying I went out on my shield kind of thing. We went down fighting, kind of rationale to
Or
it.
like Moses dying on my staff.
Yeah, Moses dying on his staff. And so a lot
Shout
of
out
people
Jim Harbaugh.
a lot of people are very comfortable with that rather than taking the perceived risk of kicking a field goal, and let's just assume you make it, and then trying to get the ball back and doing the same thing again. I agree with you, Derek. I think some of these coaches just got to take the points when they should.
Yep.
But more fundamentally for the Falcons, Bijan Robinson, he just couldn't get going. And I think with him having a better run game, I think they beat the Chiefs because it's not like the Chiefs were really doing anything too much to, keep making distance on the Falcons. I mean, that game was there for the Falcons to take, and they just couldn't do it. And that's why we're talking about not taking field goals. But I think none of that matters. Excuse me, as if Bijan Robinson can have a game like he used to have back at Texas. If he can go off he didn't even need to have 100 yards. Even if he had 75, they probably could have won that game.
It was tough running in that game. The Chiefs' defense is no joke, but
they're stout.
They are. But I think that game was winnable by the Falcons, and I think Raheem Morris kind of overthought it a little bit.
The other thing, real quick, Derek, about the Falcons, I kind of wonder how many more times they're going to be in this situation this season, because we've seen it where it's like everything's not clicking perfectly offensively for them, and I'm like, is this going to be them all season long?
Well, I will say their first 3 games were probably the hardest of the season. They could have easily been 0-3. I think it's a little easier now. That being said, this division is a lot better than I thought it was. Mm-hmm. So they'll play their division opponents in the Bucks.
They got to go play the Saints next week.
Yep, they do. It's not going to be easy, but I think things get a little easier for the Falcons coming up here. Then we have the 2 Monday night games. And for whatever reason, I thought the Buffalo Bills were going to be better this year. Because I just thought that I listened to interviews, and I thought that Josh Allen just sounded a lot happier. And I don't know what happened between him and Stephon Diggs, but I think the whole team, like I heard interviews with him and Matt Collins, I think that just kind of a weight was lifted a little bit. Like everything's a little lighter and easier. And I really like Joe Brady. I loved his offense with Joe Burrow at LSU. I thought that, I don't know how it was going to work between him and Matt Rule in Carolina, but he is running that offense beautifully. And it is the most balanced I've ever seen it. This is how I've always wanted to see the Buffalo Bills play, by running the damn football. And then the rushing numbers weren't incredible. Josh Allen had the most rushing yards of any runner. But when it comes to December and January and they're in the playoffs, they're going to be happy that they have this running scheme with James Cook and I think it's Ray Davis, their running back.
Mm-hmm. Ray Davis, Ty Johnson.
And yeah, they don't have a prototypical number 1 wide receiver right now, but they have a lot of guys that can make plays. Khalil Shakir, Keon Coleman, Matt Collins,
Dalton Kincaid, who I really like for them.
The 2 tight end set. Josh Allen looked the most comfortable I've ever seen him in quite some time, throwing 4 touchdown passes in the first half. This could be the offense that Josh Allen's always been looking for. I know he lit it up with Brian Daboll, but there never was a running game in the playoffs for them. And I hated Ken Dorsey's offense. I thought it was awful. I thought, like, at times, yeah, he looked incredible, Josh Allen with Ken Dorsey. But most of the time, it was a Madden offense. Let's go all verts and just chunk it deep. That's what that offense was.
Gonna go all verts and leak the back out over the middle and see what we can do.
Now it's schemed up a little bit. Now it kind of looks like a Kyle Shanahan offense. I really like what Joe Brady's doing. On the flip side, I mean, Trevor Lawrence looks lost. And they got Gabe Davis now that came from Buffalo. They paid big wide receivers. They drafted Brian Thomas from LSU, Christian Kirk. They got a couple years ago. This offense should be better. It may be that Doug Peterson is in over his head again. He didn't last too long in Philadelphia, even after winning the Super Bowl. The Jaguars have expectations. They should not be 0-3. They shouldn't be 0-3 and have this much difficulty scoring points.
Yeah, Trevor Lawrence needs to get the hell out of there, I think.
You think so? I mean, they're not going to let him go.
They're not going to let him go. I'm just saying, like, that doesn't look good. And
what if they got a better coach, though?
What if he had a better coach? I don't know. I mean, is Doug Peterson? I think is a fine coach.
But I think it all depends on the scheme. I think that like Derek Carr looks better with Clint Kubiak. I think if you get the right coach in there, like, let's be real here. They're 0-3. They pay Trevor Lawrence $55 million a year. He's not going anywhere.
He's not.
If anything, Doug will be fired, and they'll bring in another offensive coach to help him out.
Yep. No, that's what'll happen. I'm just saying, it's going to be very hard for Trevor Lawrence by himself to right that ship. So he's going to need help. I know they tried to hook him up with some wide receivers. I don't know, 10 points. Mac Jones is coming to the game in garbage time to try to clean things up. It's just not good. It doesn't look good. Doug Peterson probably not long for that job either, starting 0-3, I believe. So it's just I turned that game off after about 2 quarters, and I was like, we're good here.
I don't blame you. Yeah, and it's bad when 2 of the highest paid quarterbacks in football are 0-3.
Yeah.
The more entertaining game, the Bengals and the Commanders. It looked like the Bengals were about to blow this game open right from the start, where Joe Burrow hits Jamar Chase on a deep pass and they score on the opening drive. And that's what you expected. It was the get-right game for the Bengals. Not at all. The Commanders came out with a fantastic offensive game plan. Cliff Kingsbury with a fantastic game plan. Jaden Daniels having a coming-out party from the deep pass to Terry McLaurin that broke the game open at 21-7 to the game-clinching touchdown pass to Terry McLaurin. It was a great offensive scheme, and Jaden Daniels is showing that he might be a force in this league, a little bit of a mix of Lamar Jackson and Kyler Murray. He looks really impressive. And the Bengals played fantastic. Offensively, Joe Burrow had a great game. Neither team committed a turnover nor punted. It was the first time that happened in NFL history. First game that happened since the 1940s. It was just an offensive bonanza. The defense was atrocious for the Bengals. But it could be that they were just caught off guard so much by what Jaden Daniels was doing. Jaden Daniels Joe Burrow was great. Don't get me wrong. He was fantastic. But Jaden Daniels was the better LSU former quarterback that night. So I still think the Bengals are a good team. I just can't figure them out. They can't do anything offensively in the first game against the Patriots. They play tough against the Chiefs, but ultimately lose that game. And then the defense can't stop Jaden Daniels and the Commanders at all. So they're 0-3, and it's a bad 0-3. They look good at times, but it's a bad 0-3, especially when, you look at the schedule and you thought, okay, we should beat the Patriots. We may lose to the Chiefs. We should beat the Commanders. You're 0-3 with Joe Burrow. That can't happen. But I give a ton of kudos to the Commanders. That was a fantastic performance.
Jaden Daniels is a real deal. Super accurate, takes care of the ball, can run when he needs to. I mean, his skill set has transferred perfectly to the NFL. He was a major problem in college for defenses. I know when Alabama played him, I was always like, great, this guy's a freaking issue to deal with. He's very tough to contain. No, he was awesome. I'm with you on the Bengals. I think they're a good team. I think they can light anybody up any given week, but I don't know. They look like a very incomplete team right now, Derek. They're not. I mean, this is a game where your defense has to do something for you, especially against a rookie quarterback. Even if Jaden Daniels is as advertised, and instead they don't get it done. And okay, so 2 of these losses, you lose one in the 2-minute drill, and then you lose another going down 12 points with 2 minutes left. So it's a really tough position to be in. But that being said, I mean, that's what your defense is for, because know Joe Burrow is going to constantly give you maybe not performances like this every week, but he's going to be able to air the ball out.
Yeah, that's 2 weeks in a row, or 2 years in a row, that the second overall pick comes into Cincinnati and beats them. CJ Stroud did that a year ago. Shannon Daniels did it last night. All right, there you go. That is every game from week 3 in the NFL reviewed. I think the biggest takeaway from the league right now is I don't know what to make of it. A lot of parity in the league right now. I think everybody is 1 week everybody looks great, and 1 week everybody looks bad. But I think the best teams right now in the NFL are probably the Vikings, Steelers, Chiefs, and Bills.
Buffalo for sure.
And I'll reserve judgment on the Seahawks until they play the Lions on Monday night.
Yeah, I think that's fair. You said the word parity. There's a lot of 1 and 2 teams right now. It's kind of insane, and a lot of them are teams that I was expecting to be better than that. Yeah, Cowboys would be one of them, Ravens another one. So it's just the way it is. The Chiefs, I'll say this, even though they haven't really wowed me yet, they remind me of what the Warriors used to do. We'll just cruise through the regular season, and as soon as it matters, that's when you'll see us show up.
Before we get out of here, the Oakland A's won tonight on a walk-off single to beat the Texas Rangers 5-4 in the bottom of the 9th.
Classic.
And that's fantastic. Any chance I can hear celebration a few more times, I will. And it's coming to an end on Thursday in the afternoon. And I hate that game is in the afternoon, because I would have loved to have been there on Thursday night. But I got to work during the day. And I'm hoping to go tomorrow. Still waiting on a ticket. Hopefully that comes through. But it's starting to hit me that this is going away, and not just the A's, but everything in Oakland as far as sports. And I went a couple of months ago, saw Tacky at the Coliseum for A's and Giants, and the A's won 2-0, and I was kind of content with that being my last game. And if that is my last game, I'm okay with it. Even though I don't love the idea of my last game being at the Coliseum was spending time with Tacky. That just, ugh. But I do want to go one last time, and hopefully I do go tomorrow, and I want to go through the tunnel and see all of the A's fans and smell the hot dogs being cooked, all the knockoff merchandise being tried to be thrown your way, and the sound of the Coliseum, the smell, all of its imperfections, the parking lot. It's just settling in that it's going away, and it's tough. So yeah, I'm hoping I go on Wednesday. And look, me and Steven call out John Fisher enough on this podcast. His letter was ridiculous. I don't even want to acknowledge it.
Yeah.
I give a ton of praise to Larry Beal last night on his broadcast, being, when you're on television, you got to be, unbiased and whatnot. But he let it rip on John Fisher, and I commend him for that. So yeah. And by the way, Brody Brazil is going to co-host with Adam Copeland tomorrow. Tom Coughlin. Jesus, Tom Tolbert. It's late. Tom Tolbert is off tomorrow. Brody Brazil is going to fill in the old garden snake. I'm so happy about that, because it worked out perfectly that he's coming in. And we're talking A's on KMBR tomorrow. Deal with it. But yeah, man. I know you grew up an A's fan, and I know that you live in Vegas now, so you're happy that the team's coming over there. But this is
not as much as I would like to see them stay.
No, yeah. I understand that, but yeah, man, this is starting to hit me a little bit, and it's getting sad.
Yeah. I don't know. I had to do my last time around the Coliseum with the Raiders. That was interesting, and I still miss the Coliseum a lot. But I was always like, well, the A's will probably be here for the foreseeable future, so I'm happy with that. and now they're not. Whether they're going to end up in Vegas or not, I have no clue. But what really matters is that they're not going to be in Oakland. It's not a conversation of where they're going next. It's a conversation of where they won't be. So that's the sad part. I mean, so many of us, even, Giants fans in the East Bay, a ton of them go to A's games. Everybody goes to the Coliseum because it's cheap. It's nice and affordable. It's easy to get to. Like, it was just a fun place to go hang out. That entire complex was, whether it was Oracle Arena when the Warriors sucked, or whether it was the A's when they were trying to make playoff runs with guys who were all, under the age of 25. And these are good memories that we have of the Coliseum complex. And, it's just gonna go away. And what's really sad about it is that is something that, I don't know. It's different. It's like going in a time machine, and it's different than the historical ballparks on the East Coast or in the Midwest. It's completely different than those because this was built during a different era. This was built, middle of the century instead of turn of the century, 100 years ago. So I don't know. It's sad. It's not like it couldn't have ever gotten done. It just didn't for whatever reason. And Oakland sports are gone. I mean, Oakland professional sports are gone, and that's what's going on now.
It's brutal. It's brutal, especially now that I live here. I would have loved to lived here at a time when all three teams were playing.
Yeah.
But it's not that way anymore. And man, I'm hoping that I could go tomorrow and just soak it in one last time and remember the days of Giambi, Matt Stairs, Jermaine Dye, the big three.
Eric Burns doing crazy stuff down the side.
Eric Burns, Terrence Long, Jermaine Dye, Miguel Tejada, all the guys I grew up watching thanks to my dad. And it's setting in, and it's a very weird feeling. I know I'm rambling here, and I don't really know what to say. It's just I never thought this day would come, I knew this day would come, but I don't know how I would feel. And now that it's a reality, it's making me scared. I really hope I get to go tomorrow night and really soak it in. But if I don't end up going, then I've seen a lot of a good A's baseball at the Coliseum, and I have my memories. And I went my fair share of times this season. But it just sucks. There's really nothing else to say about it. So, and I'll say this one last thing. I really appreciate all the Giants fans that have been supportive during this. I know that, some Giants fans look down upon the A's and, make fun of the team and whatnot. And that's, kind of fun of the rivalry. But during this whole time, everyone's acknowledged that John Fisher is just totally heartless in this thing. And the big thing that I've noticed is Giants fans keep saying, like, I remember going to the Coliseum because it was a good, like Oracle Park. Yes, it's a better ballpark than the Coliseum. But I can't tell you how many Giants fans have said, I remember, I don't, back in the day, I didn't get to see every AL team. So the opportunity came when the Red Sox were coming to Oakland or the Yankees. It's easy. Hop on BART and go, and you see a different ball club, and it's fun. Adam Copeland, diehard Giants fan, shits on the A's sometimes, but he grew up in San Leandro. He went to go see them all the time. So it's tough. I think it's tough for the whole Bay Area, but especially the East Bay kids like me and you. So man, long live the Oakland A's. It's coming to an end this Thursday, but they'll never be out of my mind and in my heart. And Sacramento nor Vegas could ever replace Oakland, in my opinion. So
no,
yeah,
and it's not going to, and that's the thing. So I think one thing's for sure: Major League Baseball. They blessed this whole thing for happening, and whether people knew it was going to happen or not, Major League Baseball knew it was going to happen probably for a long time, and now it's finally happening. So I hope everybody has fun the last couple games over there at the Collie. And it's just sad. It's sad to have that taken out of a region, out of a city. All these new people who are going to grow up there now, they're never going to get to experience that. And that's just the way it'll be.
Yes. Well said, my man. Thank you for filling in tonight, Alon. I appreciate you. Steven will be back on Saturday, and we will talk to him all about his wedding and talk to him about the Raiders and Niners. But it won't be too long after that Steven will be back off. He's going to go, I believe, to Italy for his honeymoon, which sounds amazing.
Pizza pie.
There you go.
Yeah.
So that Alon will fill in with his Mario-style Italian accents. And I don't know when exactly that will be, but I'll let you know, my man. And thank you for powering through tonight despite your sickness.
No, you know what? I started feeling better after I had the ramen, and I was lucky that I just started feeling better. So I was happy. Maybe it's because I got to say so many glowing things about the Raiders and the Niners tonight that made me feel better.
Well, I appreciate it, man. And we'll definitely hold you to your end of the hot sauce deal.
Yes, of course.
All right, guys. To everybody in the chat tonight, the Ernies, Tacky, and I'm glad that Tacky was man enough to admit that he's been the fake Derek Pop all along. Appreciate that. AJ Cruz, I believe that's everybody tonight. Thank you to the loyal guys tonight. And we'll see you guys on Saturday for just your pregame show, man. Week 4 in the NFL. Until then, Alon, thank you as always. Say what we say on this fine program.
It's just your opinion, man.
That was more Jamaican, but yeah.
Yeah, that